Noah Schnapp, you had a real breakout season on Stranger Things for season 2. Season 1, you were missing for most of it, so it was hard for you to do too much. What was the difference for you in coming back to season 2 where you had a much bigger role?
Mm-hmm. It was also much more relaxed, and there wasn't as much kind of security on set. But this season, when we were filming season 2, it was more pressure to get a good season, obviously. And I had a very different role in season 2, so I definitely had a lot more fun filming season 2.
I mean, whenever I look at Will, I just think, geez, this kid has had so much to do and so much. There's a lot of dark moments that you had to deal with. How did you prepare for, for example, when Will's being possessed by the monster? It went to a really dark place. How did you prepare for that kind of scene?
Yeah, the scene where I'm in the field and it's going in me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that scene was, that was such a hard scene to film because I had to, when they filmed the scene, there's nothing there. They're not going to put a fake monster in the sky. So I just had to, it was just a big green screen, and I had to imagine that there's this big, terrifying monster coming after me. And it was so hard to wrap my mind around that. So I had to imagine that this was kind of Will's moment in the season to stand up for himself and be courageous. And this is not like Will. Will's usually the quiet kid who doesn't really, he doesn't talk too much. And in this scene, he's standing up for himself. And it was a big scene for Will and for me as well. So I definitely had to prepare for it a lot. And I looked up, I did a lot of research on stories about kids getting possessed and stuff, and kind of things about that. And I thought about it, and I thought, if he's taking me over, this is him, he's coming in my mind, so I have to think about what it feels like to be. It was hard. There was nothing I had to make it up a little by myself, and I thought about what it feels like to.
Yeah. And no, what was the biggest challenge for you as an actor this season?
Well, I had a few big challenges this season. I think that's hard. I think there's a big three. I think the top, there's a few. The first is the scene that I had to do probably with Winona in, I think it was episode 3, where I was talking to her about what I saw in the field, and I was really emotional. And I've never really, before that, I've never really done a scene like that. So it was, when I heard the scene was coming up, I was really nervous because I didn't know what to expect or how I would bring out those emotions. So I remember texting Winona, because I know she's done that all in season 1, and I asked her, how do you do it? I need advice. And she told me, just you have to. And I remember asking Sean Astin too, and they both told me not to push it. If it doesn't come, don't force it. And they also told me you really have to put yourself in a really emotional state to be able to access those emotions. So I made myself really just let go and relaxed and not tense. And it was very easy for me to be able to be cry in that scene and feel what Will was feeling. So I put myself in his shoes, and then I just thought, what would it feel like to be telling your mom about that, a night like that and a kid. It was a hard scene to film. And I remember the first few takes we were doing, they were good takes, but they weren't great. And I remember on the 5th or 6th take, we were in the middle of the scene, and Sean Levy, who was directing the scene, saw me. He was he saw me building up my emotion, and he knew that I could get it in the next take. So he just restarted the scene, and we did it all in that next take, and the whole scene was from that one take, and it was perfect. And it was probably most favorite scene to film, because I felt so just proud of it and good about that scene after I finished it. Also very relieved.
Yeah, I can imagine. With a lot of younger actors, you usually are in a lot of scenes with other actors who are playing your parents or someone who is an older person. And so I could imagine that you would actually form quite a great connection and bond with that other actor because of that dynamic. And I'm wondering, what was the connection like, or what has the connection like being with Winona, given that she plays Will's mum on the show? Did you have that special bond? Did it grow over season 2 because you got to work more together?
Yes, for sure. She's one of the sweetest people I've ever known, and me, my family and her are very close, and she's always, I've said this so many times, but she's always watching out for me with anything, and she's so helpful. I'm so glad that I got to work off of Winona, because if I didn't get to work with her, I don't know how. She when you get to work off of a really great actor, it's so much easier to be able to act great as like yourself as an actor, just because having someone real to bounce off of it makes it so much better. And I'm so glad I got to work with her, and she was always helping me, always taking care of me. She's like my second mother. Anything I asked for, she always was there for it. I love Winona.
There's so many different reasons why people are drawn to Stranger Things. I wondered for you, Noah, what do you think's the most special thing about the show and draws you in the most to the stories?
Well, there's definitely a few reasons, I think. Obviously, one of the major reasons is because that the show is set in the 80s, and a lot of people can, like the set designer and the Duffers, they're just genius of how they set up the whole thing, because it's so authentic and it's so real, and so many people can like feel that time when they're watching the show. And my dad always tells me how everything in the show he had, and I think a lot of people love that about the show. And then there's the characters who are so relatable, and they're very real and authentic, and they're not fake. It's a real show that's based off of real life and anyone can relate to. And the, like, for example, the hero is not always a perfect hero who has no flaws or anything. Like David Harbour, who plays Hopper, is a hero in the show, and he still has his flaws. He's a bit overweight, and but it makes it authentic and relatable in a way. So I love that about the show, that it's so real.
I noticed on Twitter the other day that you recently posted a photo of you winning a $100 bet with the Duffers. And I'm sure you've probably discussed this a couple of times, but for people who aren't aware, what was the scene that you guessed in season 2? Well, take us through what the bet was about and why you won, and how good it felt to have that $100 from the creators of the show.
I think Millie, I forget who, but I think it was Millie also who made a bet with the Duffers, but it was for $50. So I'm very proud that I actually won $100
Wow.
from the directors of the show. It's a thing to be proud of. But the bet was, I think I remember I was in the hospital, and I think it was also because they felt bad for me, but I was in the hospital, and they told me, no, well, we'll give you $100. I forget how it came up, but we were talking. Usually I tell the story like I'm not allowed to talk about it because it's a spoiler, but now the season's out. But it was we made a bet, like if Will was gonna get possessed or not in the season. And he was actually, they told me one day at lunch that the tank Millie was in season 1. They said they were about doing something with that in season 2. And this is off topic, being like very excited to go in that tank, and I guess it never happened, and they changed that, but it was a cool thing. I think they changed it, but yeah.
You talked about how your dad says that all the stuff he had in the 80s, he sees in the show. What's the thing that you most wish your childhood had from the 80s, from your experience on Stranger Things?
Something that I want from the 80s?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I love the 80s just because of how there's no phones, and it's so much more like there's no, like, no one hides behind phones in the 80s. Everything's in person. And I love that because it's just like, I remember when I was younger, I was dying for a phone, and I'd ask my mom every day, Mom, can I have a phone? Mom, can I have a phone? And I remember the day I got my phone, and I started using it, and then I realized, oh, well, now it's like I'm addicted to it, and now I wish I didn't have a phone, and I miss being like so innocent without my phone and being able to really appreciate everything. So I wish that about this time, because it's very different. And I also wish that we still might, because in the show, all the kids use walkie-talkies to talk to each other, and that sounds so cool. I would love to be able to talk to my friends with walkie-talkies.
Yeah, you would not have been able to do an interview with an actor from Stranger Things in the 80s via a web chat. You would have had to go and meet the star from Stranger Things to talk with him.
So speaking of winning things, for my previous question, I after Stranger Things dropped on Netflix, we started getting a lot of tweets about, Noah Schnapp's done, he's got a much bigger role, and wow, what an amazing performance. And we've all been hearing about it and talking about it, and we're in awards season now. And so there's some talk that, you may get some attention like Millie did last year as the breakout from season 1. What does that mean to you to have people talk about your performance in that way?
It feels really, I don't know, I feel so honored to be able to, like, I'm just a kid, and I remember we all worked so hard on this season, and I was really lucky to have like the role written for me so well, and I had a big challenge this season, and it was a lot to face. And I remember the Duffers said in an interview that they didn't want to tell me that like I was very young, and they didn't want to tell me that like the whole season relied on me, and because they didn't want to put a lot of pressure on me. But I kind of realized that after watching the show. And after seeing like the stuff I did, I was very proud of it, and it feels so I'm so lucky to be able to have such a great response. And whatever happens in the award season, I'm grateful for how great of a response my acting got this season.
How have you found the whole reception to Stranger Things on the awards circuit? It did very well at the Emmys this year, won quite a lot of Emmys, got nominated in a lot of other categories. You guys won the Screen Actors Guild for Best Ensemble last year, which sort of for a show with so many young actors was a bit surprising whether that would get respected, and it did. How's the industry and awards circuit been for someone your age?
Well, it's very different. I love going. First of all, I love going to those award shows because I mean it's so. I remember like when I was 6-7 years old, I'd go in my bed at like 10 o'clock with my mom and watch the award shows all the way through. And I remember thinking that the whole time watching them, I was like, oh, what if I was on that stage? What if I was up there? What if I was making a speech about an award I won? How cool would that be? And I feel so lucky that now I get to go to all these award shows and I get to meet all these amazing actors that I look up to. And when we won the SAG Award, I got to stand on that stage and accept an award. And it's so cool. And I remember I was so crazy after we won that award. I remember we went in the back and there was this room where my mom had to sign something so I could get the award. And I couldn't find my mom, and I was like going crazy because I was like, oh, I have to get this. I don't know what to do. And I was hyperventilating, and I was running all around looking for my mom, and I found her, and I grabbed her, and she's like, whoa, no, what is wrong with you? Because I was going crazy. And I had her just sign the sheet, and I took the award, and I held it like a baby all night, and I still keep it in front of my room, in front of my bed, so when I wake up, I can see it every morning.
Noah, so given that Will has been through the wars, has been through anything you can possibly throw at this kid, what are you hoping for Will in season 3 of Stranger Things? I know you can't give spoilers, but what would you like to see for this guy?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I honestly, after watching season 1, I didn't know where they would go with the show and with Will, because it kind of ended on like okay, it's over. That everything's pretty much, not everything, most of it was pretty much solved. And I had no clue where they would go with the season. And I feel the same way about the second season. But I feel like Australian, but I'm really hoping that 11 and my character get to have an interaction in season 3, because I've been dying to have scenes with 11. And I hope that Hopper, like if I live with 11, then that means Hopper, then I live with Hopper too, and then maybe Joyce will date Hopper.
Very good. I love that.
From 2 years of Stranger Things, Noah, what is your favorite scene or moment from the show?
Oh, I have a few. I think my favorite, I really love the scene where 11 flips the van in front of them, because it was just such a cool scene. And I've heard so many stories about them filming that scene. But I think I also had a lot of fun filming. It was the very first scene of the very first season. It was just because we were all getting to know each other, and it was very relaxed. We were all laughing every time we took a take. And I remember I had a lot of fun filming that scene. But I think my favorite scene out of the whole season to film, and my favorite scene to watch was definitely the one in episode with Winona where I was very emotional. I just always replay that scene just because I don't know. I'm proud of it. And but there's a few. I think also the scene where I'm in the field yelling at the monster to go away. I really loved that scene. And also the dance, the dance at the end of the season, I really loved.
Yes, where Zombie Boy became a term of endearment rather than a tease. Well, Noah, thank you so much for talking with us today about Stranger Things 2. It's been such a pleasure. Yeah, and all the best on the awards circuit with everything that's going to come your way.
Thank you very much, guys. Pleasure talking to you.